Funding for the Stories of Louisiana's Black Church is provided by.
When morning came to Louisiana, we were hopeful, not hibernating. We were stronger, ready for what's next. And together, as we build anew, Blue Cross stands ready to support you.
Hi, I'm Patrick, employee at ExxonMobil and pastor of Believers Assembly of Baton Rouge. I'm so glad ExxonMobil is sponsoring the Louisiana Black Church on LPB, and I hope you enjoy watching it.
With CSRS, building stronger, smarter communities together. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and viewers like you. Thank you.
Freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh.
When the Spirit of God moves in people, they will change even if they don't want to. Their hearts will change. And when their heart changes, that's why I believe the Black church is always going to be relevant, it's always going to be vital, and it's always going to be vibrant because it has that spirit.
It's at the center because it's where all of the faith comes from. It's where the strength of the community comes from. The Black church is so incredibly important in the civil rights movement in all aspects of African American life.
The people that came to this church came because they want to be here. They're excited about their religion. They believe in Catholicism, and they practice it here freely.
Since I laid my burden down.
The one thing that we all have in common, we love music. I don't care black, white, red, or yellow. We love music. And it's the one thing that we'll allow to pull us together.
The year is 1719, and the first enslaved people are arriving on ships from Africa in the port of New Orleans, just 1 year after the city's founding. The journey from freedom to slavery, from home to an alien land, has been unspeakably brutal. Yet in the midst of this suffering, the seeds of Louisiana's Black churches are planted.
That long journey, across the Atlantic with the temporal dislocation in the hull of a ship, in darkness and excrement and disease, where you didn't speak the same, language as the person next to you, that the question is, what kind of unified African culture and practices could have survived that? That's the question and the argument that some would make. But the truth is they did survive.
West African religion is rooted deeply in community. That's how these formerly free people have worshipped in their homeland for years, but the transatlantic slave trade disperses that. Now friends and even family are being separated and given a new religion.
In Louisiana, it's colonized by the French and the Spanish, and the French and the Spanish are both Catholic. And so when they come in, they start to convert their slaves to Catholicism.
The Catholic Church welcomed slaves and free people of color, but only to a point.
So the churches were very, very segregated, but they did, and when I say they, the Europeans and the slave masters really did want to make sure that slaves got some kind of religion, and really it was meant to maintain the institution of slavery. And they really practiced obeying your master and being obedient, but you had a three-tiered racial hierarchy where you had masters, Europeans that were at the top, and then you had free people of color or Creoles in the middle, and then all of the slaves were in the bottom sphere of that.
These churches were just as anti-Black, many of them, as the rest of the world.
The spiritualism these slaves experienced in West Africa, conjure, voodoo, it was interactive. Everyone would dance and chant. There was none of that in white churches. The slaves seemed to comply, but when you scratch beneath the surface,
Between 1791 to 1804, we had a large influx of Haitian immigrants coming in because of the Haitian Revolution. And when they came into New Orleans, they brought with them the practice of voodoo. And voodoo was already here, but it was more prevalent when the Haitians came in. And so when they came in, you started to see that a lot of the voodoo deities are going to be amassed as Catholic saints. For instance, St. Peter becomes Papa Legba. And so what happens is that white people, European people did not understand. They didn't realize that the religion was still being practiced.
As the years pass, the slaves assimilate into the white church, worshiping the way their masters do. This is true in Catholic churches across the state, as well as in Baptist, Episcopal, and other Protestant denominations. But over time, splits begin to occur, sometimes because of the leadership, sometimes because the congregants want their own space. This is St. James African Methodist Episcopal in New Orleans. It looks like it did in the 1840s when it was built. The white bricks, the steeples at the top, all the way down to the pews inside. It's all original.
The people who started the church went to a Methodist church, but they were not allowed, they had to sit in the back, and they were not allowed to go to the altar to pray or anything. Yeah, the Methodist church was a white church.
These folks decided, you know what, we don't want to live like this or to worship like this. So they started their own church. They left that church in 1844. It
was started by free men of color and slaves to build the church. When they did build this church, the ladies carried the bricks from the river in their aprons. The men carried the boards on their shoulders. This church was closed down a lot of times by police because they did not want the slaves to come here and worship.
Right in that very balcony up there through that rose window, it is told that they would look out, watchers or ushers or people looking out those windows, making certain that watching for the sheriffs and the police who was looking for slaves who was roaming the streets at that time of the day or trying to sneak in services and stuff. They would look out and watch.
We've had so many people to be here. Buffalo Soldiers were here. The Prince Hall Masons were started here.
For a group of slaves and free people of color to pull off building a new church is monumental. Not just for St. James AME, but for Black congregations across the state that need a safe space and a new message. In Opelousas, the Holy Ghost Catholic Church is birthed from a white congregation.
This church was actually officially established in 1920. But prior to 1920, these people from this congregation attended St. Landry Catholic Church next door. But of course, at that time, because of the segregation, Black people had a special place to sit down.
We had 2 pews. Literally, we had the last few pews in the back of the church. The determination that our parents and foreparents had to have their own church, how they worship God in truth and spirit, at the same time being so degraded that the men had to watch their women and their children get up if a white person walked into church and they needed the space. Can you imagine that you would still stay somewhere but you really wasn't wanted and you really wasn't invited, but you were there for God?
With the freedom to tailor their service to a predominantly Black audience, Blackness seeps in more and more. Racism and social awareness is married into the homilies.
When it comes to a church, when you walk in the doors, you should know that you're in an African American church. You should not only see the symbolization, but you should be able to feel the spirit. And we was the first African American church in our diocese, or I think in the South, that has a risen Christ. Everything we did was controversial.
It brings the people to relate. You know, you see Jesus as like yourself. You know, we are African American and we want to see an African American Jesus, and that brings the worship closer. So we wanted Jesus in our image, and it brings it closer to the people and makes them believe that, hey, Jesus is just like me.
You can be authentically Catholic and authentically Black, because that's who God made us. He didn't make a mistake.
Hello, I'm Robin Merrick, a friend and supporter of LPB, joining you for Louisiana's Black Church. It is LPB who is best able to tell Louisiana's story, and the Black Church is certainly an important part of Louisiana communities large and small. During this brief intermission, I want to remind you that we depend on viewer support to present everything you see on LPB, from this production to the PBS Nature that we watch so frequently, Masterpiece, and Finding Your Roots. Help us continue to deliver to you the quality programs you love. Make your pledge online right now at lpb.org, or call us or text GIVE to 888-769-5000. We have special thank you gifts selected for you during this program. Let's hear about them right now.
For $180 or a monthly sustaining donation of $15, you will receive the Clementine Hunter Baptism on Cane River platter. For $150 or a monthly sustaining donation of $12.50, receive Louisiana's Black Church Combo. That includes Louisiana's Black Church Program DVD, Mahalia Jackson and the Black Gospel Field Book by Mark Burford, Time is Closer Than You Think CD by the legendary Lighthouse Gospel Singers, plus LPB Passport, your on-demand library of the best of PBS and LPB. For $120 or a sustaining monthly donation of $10, receive the Mahalia Jackson and the Black Gospel Field Book by Mark Burford. And for $72 or a sustaining monthly donation of just $6, receive the program DVD of Louisiana's Black Church and LPB Passport, your on-demand library of the best of PBS and LPB. Just call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000 or go to lpb.org and become a friend of LPB today. Or choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB.
All right, we've got joining us in studio Mr. Clay Fourier today to tell us more about the thank you gifts and the wonderful things you can receive as a member of the Friends of LPB. Clay?
Thank you very much, Robin. I've got something very special for everybody who calls in right now. And remember, you can call in or text at 888-769-5000. On that text, simply put the word GIVE. Or you can go online to lpb.org. So many ways for you to contribute to Louisiana programming here on LPB. And for a credit card pledge of $300 or more, you're going to receive all the gifts from tonight's show, including the Clementine Hunter Baptism on Cane River large rectangular plate. So call right now at that number. We have operators standing by. I also wanted to mention to you right here on the big screen here, the member challenge. So Ruby and Ori Marino of Baton Rouge, and they are challenging everybody to call in right now at the number that you see on your screen. And what they're going to do is basically they're going to match that pledge that you're doing up to the first $1,200. Now that, folks, is going to effectively double your pledge. So this is a perfect time to call. Give us a call. Help us make more great Louisiana programming like you're seeing here tonight. You know, I also want to thank our local underwriters for this program, and they include State Farm, ExxonMobil Baton Rouge, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana, and CSRS. Thank you, and thanks to everyone who has called in so far during this pledge drive, and especially during this Louisiana program. Let's go back on over to Robin.
Thanks, Clay. So very glad we're here together, and we've got Kara St. Cyr joining us in studio as well. Kara is the co-host of Louisiana, the state we're in, and she's also the producer for Louisiana's Black Church. And Kara, it's so good to meet you in person. We met virtually a few weeks ago as we were celebrating Black History Month and the premiere of the Henry Louis Gates documentary, The Black Church, and it was amazing that we had that opportunity to preview it. And now you've come back and worked on something very specific to Louisiana, which is exciting for us.
Yes, so we're working on our own little version of the Louisiana Black churches. It's very similar to what PBS was doing, but we want to highlight our churches because we also have a very unique, rich history whenever it comes to our Black churches. And a lot of the things that have been going on in those places, you still see they've made such a really big impact. For instance, here in Louisiana and Baton Rouge specifically, they've really had a big church impact. For instance, Mount Zion Baptist Church. It played a huge role in civil rights because a lot of people don't know that the Baton Rouge bus boycott was the blueprint for everything that went on in Montgomery.
Correct.
And even afterwards, we've had really serious things happen with voting here because in West Feliciana Parish, East Feliciana Parish, they didn't have any Black people registered to vote. And it's a lot of strength for these people to get together and use the church to make those changes and make those things happen. And we really explore that in this documentary.
And we're excited. Like I said, this program that we're watching is really giving us a chance to see our churches here in Louisiana, while we had the opportunity to watch the Henry Louis Gates special that talked about the Black church, you know, in total. But now we're getting this opportunity to see the influence that it has had in Louisiana. And clearly civil rights has been a large part of that. But even beyond civil rights, you know, you talked about the impact that the church has had on some other areas in the community, because it has been the mainstay of the Black community for such a long time.
So there are a lot of other places that the Black church has had an influence, and a lot of it comes into pop culture with music, because a lot of those long notes, call and response, all of that is extremely unique to the Black church. You wouldn't have those things without that influence. And Mahalia Jackson is a very, very popular gospel singer, and she came out of New Orleans, and her style, the way she sang, the way she dragged out those notes, all of that originates in the church, and we explore that in the documentary.
It originates in the church. It's coming out of Louisiana. You're putting it all together to showcase Louisiana's Black churches, and I'm so excited. Again, I can't say that enough about what we're doing. But on that note, I do want to remind everyone that we've got some amazing thank you gifts that you can call in and receive as part of this program this evening, and I want you to see those right now. Here they go.
For $180 or a monthly sustaining donation of $15, you will receive the Clementine Hunter Baptism on Cane River platter. For $150 or a monthly sustaining donation of $12.50, receive Louisiana's Black Church Combo. That includes Louisiana's Black Church Program DVD, Mahalia Jackson and the Black Gospel Field Book by Mark Burford, Time is Closer Than You Think CD by the legendary Lighthouse Gospel Singers, plus LPB Passport, your on-demand library of the best of PBS and LPB. For $120 or a sustaining monthly donation of $10, receive the Mahalia Jackson and the Black Gospel Field Book by Mark Burford. And for $72 or a sustaining monthly donation of just $6, receive the program DVD of Louisiana's Black Church and LPB Passport, your on-demand library of the best of PBS and LPB. Just call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000 or go to lpb.org and become a friend of LPB today. Or choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB.
Okay, well, in addition to all the great gifts that you've seen over here, I've got something very special for you. For your $300 pledge, and that can be on credit card, that's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover, you're also going to get the Clementine Hunter Baptism on Cane River large rectangular platter. And also something very special, Ruby and Ori Marino, they're proud supporters of the programming. They're offering a membership challenge. So when you call in up to the first $1,200, they're going to double that pledge. So this is a great time to call in. So call or text at 888-769-5000, text GIVE, or go to lpb.org online. We'd also like to thank our local underwriters. That's going to be State Farm, ExxonMobil Baton Rouge, Blue Cross Blue Shield Louisiana, and CSRS. You know, LPB has a great deal of wonderful raffles. We have one each season. We have one right now. Let's take a look.
LPB wants to help you enjoy your outdoor space to the fullest. All you have to do is enter to win LPB's Ultimate Patio Raffle. One lucky winner will receive an amazing outdoor makeover, perfect for entertaining. Whether it's a barbecue island and smoker, a cozy fire pit, comfy furniture, and a big screen TV to watch the game, you will be well on your way to designing the patio of your dreams with the $25,000 grand prize gift card from the Barbecue Guys. Tickets are $45. Buy two and get a third ticket free. Start dreaming up your design and go to lpb.org for more information.
So we've got everything here. We've got thank you gifts. We've got a patio raffle going on. We've got our member challenge. We have the credit card offer, a number of things to support LPB. And Kara, we're doing all of this around the Louisiana's Black Church. And so we're very grateful that you are here and the documentary that you've worked on. And we're going to come back and talk a little bit more in the next break or so about the work that you're doing. So I want to thank you again for taking on this task. And any final words before we go back to the next segment?
Oh, I'm just excited to talk about the other topics that we have coming up.
All right, that will do. So back to Louisiana's Black Church.
Holy Ghost wasn't the only church discovering a newfound freedom. In both Catholic and Protestant services across Louisiana, pastors were able to talk about Jesus and God in a new way.
For African American, Jesus was someone much more intimate. Jesus was friend, right? Jesus wasn't someone distant. And this actually comes from African American religion and not the reverse.
We've always preached that. God wants us to have heaven here too. He wants us to live good here. The white man preached to them that you're going to have it when you die and go there if you do what you're supposed to do here. But we're like, well, we catching hell here. And you think so God wants us to suffer and you live good? And something not right about that.
Having their own churches gives Black congregants the ability to heal themselves and hope for better days. And that hope translates to intense worship.
We're emotional, where dare I say soulful is something that's in us. It's always going to be different. You can go to a United Methodist, which is our sister denomination, and hear a song, a hymn that's being sung, and then come to an AME church. Oh yeah. Somebody getting happy, as we like to say, running down the aisle, and us as kids giggling because this person fell out and somebody got to put a sheet over them.
If there's any similarity binding Black Catholics and Black Protestants together across Louisiana, it's their ability to pour themselves into prayer and song. In the early 1900s, this music would have been unthinkable in Black churches. The drums, piano, it was all taboo. The music was simple, kinda like this.
Well, I'm gonna move in the room with the Lord, move in the room with the Lord. Said I'm gonna move in the room with the Lord, in the room with the Lord, in the room with the Lord. Well, I'm gonna stand right still, steady myself, so many ankle in my Jesus' name. I'm gonna move in the room with the Lord, in the room with the Lord. So it was songs like that, and some of them was, had a slower beat, and some of them had a faster beat and so forth. But it was all hand clapping and hip slapping that we called it back then. No music.
Reverend Sterling Wright has been performing with the legendary Lighthouse Gospel Singers since 1948. When he was a kid, a teacher caught him, his brothers, and a cousin singing gospel music.
Well, we would go like from Wilson, Louisiana to Baton Rouge, Denham Spring, Pine Grove, different little country town that we would go to sing, at that particular time. It wasn't no out of state or anything other than Mississippi.
When Wright was coming up, churches were trying to avoid this sound. In the 1940s, the blues was really picking up. This was the music of juke joints and clubs. And churches didn't want any part of that.
If you sung the blues, you was doomed for hell. So that was somewhat kind of instilled in us.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, hallelujah. Yeah, clap the hands. Since I laid my burdens down.
No, they didn't want those instruments in there because they felt like that was for the world and not for the church. So here we have this separation of music between church and the world, or sacred and secular, if that makes sense. So yes, they had to use their feet, they had to use their hands, and they were forming those harmonies with their voices.
The legendary Lighthouse Gospel Singers manager, Gerard Robinson, says their signature style evolved from something painful in the Black experience.
The suffering that was endured by our ancestors and our forefathers, the only way to basically express that without causing trouble on the plantation was through the soul of their music. And so that spiritual soul aspect of gospel music has been the thing that has brought our forefathers down through the years. It gave them hope. It gave them inspiration and motivation to keep moving when they felt like giving up.
Change is going to come. And that was instilled in many of us on plantation that, you know, if you stay with the Lord, a change will eventually come.
For the slaves, I believe it was a sense of belonging, something to look forward to, because a lot of their songs dealt with Jubilee and being free and on their way to freedom land. They had something to look for.
But the origin of Black gospel music is more complicated than that.
Harriet Tubman used certain songs. They used certain songs as signal songs, follow the drinking gourd, and that drinking gourd just happened to be the river. And to freedom was to Harriet Tubman because she was carrying them to freedom land. And that's one example. They had several examples of those kind of message songs that they used as signaling for one thing or another.
Slaves warned each other if someone was coming. Songs were also a list of instructions for organized rebellion. A lyric could tell you where to meet, what time, and what to bring. It was a coded language that only they could understand. How it was delivered was just as important as what it meant. A Negro spiritual would carry long notes without much variation.
Gonna settle down for the rest of my life. Yeah.
One person would sing, and the rest of the field would mimic the same line. It's a pattern that continues to this very day in the Black church.
In the church, you'd have call and response, different song titles. The old 100s, I love the Lord, he heard my cry. Guide me, O thou great Jehovah. All of those songs were examples of call and response.
But over time, you see that change to harmonies. 2-part, to 3-part, to 4-part. By the 60s and 70s, the music evolves even more as artists like Mahalia Jackson, a New Orleans-born star, blends the blues with gospel.
Oh, don't move, mountain.
She's just one of many Black artists who moves away from simple beats. The organ is now a gospel staple, and the drums and even the guitar are now useful. You even have a more modern choral sound coming from groups singing together, like the Baton Rouge Zion Travelers.
So right in this world, you're so right in this world, so right in this
Traditional quartet music is still rooted in the traditional gospel music feel. And what I mean by the feel, I mean by the movement, the long melodies of traditional gospel music. And so what we've been able to do as Legendary Lighthouse Gospel Singers is move from so much of the long tone into upbeat, keep the traditional sound, but then move it to upbeat in order to keep up with this new generation of gospel listeners.
I know you send me.
It's clear that the world is playing a role in Black church music, but the church is also leaving its mark on the world, providing a small, profound message of hope during the civil rights movement. For instance, Sam Cooke's music has distinct origins in the church. He uses his voice to drag out long melodies and give a message of change, which is a deeply Black sentiment.
When you get to the part that he says that, oh, just like a river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming. And if you listen to his gospel records, they have the same tune, the same music. And in fact, the Soul Stirrers, they sing that song in the church. And many of the gospel groups sing that song in the church. Change is going to come, you know. And when you listen to the words of the song, change is going to come. You know, just the words of the song, change is going to come. And change eventually come for us.
We
You hear this idea a lot in the 60s, all over the South, including Louisiana. Jim Crow laws prohibited Blacks from drinking at the same water fountain as whites, attending the same schools, or even sitting where they wanted to on the bus.
I vividly remember my mother used to taking us for rides at night on the bus, and we would have to sit behind the screen. And the screen was not a stable screen. You know, it moved. It moved according to how many people were actually on the bus. So the screen might have been in the front, but as more Caucasian people got on the bus, the screen went further back.
As the civil rights movement gained momentum in the 1950s, the opposition against black people grew stronger.
So it was a very difficult life. You kind of knew that these white people were mean and vicious. The police would club you if you was caught being out of line. You tried to have the least amount of contact with whites as you possibly could.
One of the only safe places for Louisiana's black community was in the church. As a result, pastors of black churches, particularly Protestant denominations, played a critical role. The power and influence they wielded became a driving force in the struggle to gain equal rights.
The church, especially the Baptist church, is huge in the civil rights movement. And the reason is because we have Southern Christian Leadership Conference, right? It's SCLC. And so SCLC was led by Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, and a whole bunch of different Baptist, ministers. And it actually started here in New Orleans. In the Baptist religion, again, you have these churches that are created and they can follow their own structure. They don't have any complete ties like with a regimented Vatican City with the Pope and so on. So they're able to be more involved and even start those movements and be extremely involved in the civil rights movement, whereas the Catholics, not so much.
This church is not a black church because it wanted to be a black church. It's a black church because it wasn't allowed to be a part of the white church. So as a result, you have black leaders, and in many cases, they were the only men that were educated. So as a result, you got the educated preacher, which then becomes the voice of the community because he can articulate the views of the people.
In June 1953, 2 years before Rosa Parks famously refused to move out of the white section of a Montgomery, Alabama bus, Mount Zion Baptist Church in Baton Rouge was on the move.
The issue was more or less that the blacks had to be at the back of the bus and the whites were up front. That's the basic issue. And then was just the bus system, the majority of the people that were occupying the bus were people of color. And so that was the driving force behind the whole deal. You got us, we are the majority rider, and then you're gonna put us in the back of the bus. Our money is just as good as everybody else, and that's what kind of moved it. Because again, you still had the issues with the segregation and where you could sit at the counters and all of that in Woolworth. That was right here in the city. Then you had the Smith-Brown Union at Southern University. I mean, all of that stuff was right here. All of that was happening at the same time. And so the movement was just one that the people of color, black folk, just said, hey, we had enough of this.
Mount Zion's pastor, Dr. T.J. Jemison, led a boycott of Baton Rouge's bus system.
The first thing he did, he called the pastors together. And then they kind of put their strategy together, what they wanted to do, and how they were going to utilize the membership. And then they put together those who had cars and how they were going to pick up people and drop people off and do those kind of things.
With black riders refusing its services, the bus system was on the brink of financial ruin within a matter of days.
It wasn't very long, 3 or 4 days, something. It wasn't a long time. They got that thing turned around real quick. It shut the city down real quick.
An agreement was reached that allowed more seating for blacks on the bus, but did not end the segregation system. Though some were disappointed at the end result, the Baton Rouge bus boycott paved the way for what was to come.
And this effort in Baton Rouge became the templates for the Montgomery one because they set up several things. They didn't achieve as much as they should have or could have in Baton Rouge because basically they was just trying to get better seated. The same thing with Dr. King in Montgomery.
In 1956, the Supreme Court declared that segregation busing was unconstitutional. More Jim Crow laws were overturned, but the civil rights movement was far from over. Vincent Smith was a young man in West Feliciana Parish when his family got an unexpected visitor.
1962, when a man by the name of Frank Dunbar, he was a lawyer from Washington, and a man by the name of Ronnie Moore come to our house. told my dad what they were there for. They were there for to get us to register to vote. They say the civil rights had been passed and time for these rural communities, because when nobody in West Feliciana Parish, black, was registered could vote. Nobody could vote. And that displeased my dad a big time.
A lot of people in St. Francisville weren't pleased, but what could they do? Any person of color who challenged Jim Crow might have to go against the Klan. Cross burnings and violent attacks were common, and the stakes were as high as they come.
Somebody might lose their life, somebody might get beat.
It's a risk Vincent's dad was willing to take, though precautions were in order. And there was only one place to meet safely.
A church in the old days was the pillar of communication. You go to the church, we didn't have television. So if something happened in the community, when somebody hear about it, they go to the church and ring the bell. Geronimo told my dad, get 6 or 7 men, preachers, deacons that you can trust, that can keep their mouth closed. And he did it.
It took more than a year, from March 1962 to July 1963, to get enough people to have a meeting.
It started at Pleasant Green Baptist Church because the pastor of that church and the deacons were the only ones would agree to have it at the church. Yeah, they were just simply scared. You know, this is something altogether new to black people. And then all the threats come out, and that scared people.
About 100 people showed up at Pleasant Green Baptist Church to learn how to register to vote. They were taught techniques to avoid confrontation with white people, but they were taught something even more important: literacy.
See, we had a 4-page form to fill out, 3 pages. And we had to recite the Constitution, the preamble to the Constitution. And a lot of people had never heard of no preamble. So that's the reason it took so long, because all of us was farmers and a lot of them couldn't read and write.
The secret meetings continued at the church until word leaked out.
Now, how it got out, it was a Judas in the bunch, I reckon, like with Jesus Christ. We didn't mind it getting out, but you just didn't want it to get out at that point in time. Because what we doing gonna be published. You can't keep it a secret.
When word spread that the Baptist church was a meeting spot for black people registering to vote, whites in the area retaliated during Sunday service.
So they had went in there and disconnected, had them old gas heaters with the butane gas. They had disconnected the heater, but it had a timer on it to go off at 12:30. But it didn't go off till 2. And church was over. Or they blew a hole in that wall from here to that wall. And one man was in there seeing that it being locked up and all, and he got hurt a little bit. Not real bad, but it was a scary time. It was a really scary time because nobody knew, what the next gonna be.
The church moved voter registration to the Mason Hall, but even that wasn't safe.
We went to register to vote October 17th, 1963. We wanted 100 people, we couldn't get but 43, I think. And that night, they tried to blow the hall up.
Vincent's family knew the violence was coming their way.
But we stayed up all night long that night. But the next night is when they shot out all the windows at our house. They didn't do nothing to the hall. And we was sitting up there, nothing was going on till the shots started and the glass started falling. And we all hit the floor.
In spite of the threat, more than 40 black people in West Feliciana Parish voted that fall. It was a triumph for Vincent and his father.
Because, he always was a Christian heart. He never believe in fighting, cutting, shooting. He don't believe in no violence. He say, if you throw me a stone, I'm gonna throw you bread. He claimed love gonna overpower hate in the long run.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Robin Merrick, volunteering this evening because I value all that LPB offers. This short intermission is our chance to tell you how much your membership support helps LPB throughout the year. This is your chance to invest in and be a champion for the quality programs you see on LPB, including the program you're watching right now, Louisiana's Black Church. Call us or text GIVE to 888-769-5000 or pledge online at lpb.org. Your donation at any level helps us broadcast programs such as this, plus Masterpiece, Nova, all of our children's programming, and everything else you've come to depend upon from LPB. If you're already a member, that's great. We invite you to make an additional gift to take advantage of the offers we have for you during this broadcast. So call us or text GIVE to 888-769-5000 or join us at LPB online, lpb.org, and let's hear about the wonderful gifts we have for your generous donation during this program. Here they are.
For $180 or a monthly sustaining donation of $15, you will receive the Clementine Hunter Baptism on Cane River platter. For $150 or a monthly sustaining donation of $12.50, receive Louisiana's Black Church Combo. That includes Louisiana's Black Church Program DVD, Mahalia Jackson and the Black Gospel Field Book by Mark Burford, Time is Closer Than You Think CD by the legendary Lighthouse Gospel Singers, plus LPB Passport, your on-demand library of the best of PBS and LPB. For $120 or a sustaining monthly donation of $10, receive the Mahalia Jackson and the Black Gospel Field Book by Mark Burford. And for $72 or a sustaining monthly donation of just $6, receive the program DVD of Louisiana's Black Church and LPB Passport, your on-demand library of the best of PBS and LPB. Just call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000 or go to lpb.org and become a friend of LPB today. Or choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB.
And once again, we've got Clay Fourier in studio with us to talk more about the other opportunities that you can benefit from by giving us a call at 888-769-5000. Clay?
All right, and I got something very special for everyone who pledges at $300 or more on a credit card. Right over here, the Clementine Hunter Baptism at Cane River rectangular plate. This can be yours, in addition to everything else that you're also getting, all those other gifts. Now, I wanted to mention the special membership challenge. So, Gooby and Ori Marino, they're going to challenge everybody calling in right now up to the first $1,200, whatever you're putting in for LPB programming, and that's going to effectively double your pledge dollars. So call us right now at the number you see on the screen or text to GIVE or go on to lpb.org. You know, speaking of which, I wanted to also thank our underwriters for this wonderful program tonight. They include ExxonMobil of Baton Rouge, State Farm, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana, and CSRS. Thanks everyone who's called so far. Let's go back on over to Robin.
Thanks, Clay. Thank you for sharing all that information with us and all the great things that we can receive when we become a friend of LPB. Remember that number to call is 888-769-5000. And I've got in studio with us again, joining us is Miss Kara St. Cyr. She serves as the co-anchor for Louisiana, the state we're in, and she's also the producer of the program that we're watching this evening, Louisiana's Black Church. And all of this comes on the heels of what we did with Henry Louis Gates and watching the overall Black Church that we saw as we celebrated Black History Month. But now we are delving deeply into Louisiana, what's happening. And one of the questions I had to see if you've discovered is whether or not the Black Church is still the anchor to the Black community.
That's a really good question. So the answer is yes, but it's also no. So what's interesting is there's not really that much of a participation in churches, especially whenever it comes to the younger generation. So Gen Z and millennials, they're less likely to attend church. In fact, the percentage of them participating has really dropped down to, I think, maybe about 46% of that group is actually going to church now. So they have issues whenever it comes to traditions, like respectability politics. What are you supposed to wear? They want to come as they are. And they also have some sort of disagreements with scripture, but you also find that Black culture and the culture of the church is still rooted deeply in them because their grandparents and their parents have been so close to it growing up. So it's a yes and a no, but it's something that they think may improve because COVID-19, yes, it's pulling people out of the building, but it's also giving more people a chance to tune in because they can do it online now. So it's pretty 50-50 right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes in the future, both in Louisiana and nationwide in terms of church participation, not just in the African American community, but I would imagine in the broader community that we're going to see the impacts of the pandemic on the church and just what that means for us in terms of membership, in terms of participation, and so forth. But certainly you've touched on some really important points there. And there's so much that we can talk about when we talk about the Black church because we didn't delve into the music as much as we'd like to. I know in the original series with Henry Louis Gates and even in what we're watching tonight, would be great to talk more about the impact of the music and even some of the other things that go along with that.
Right, so we'll have more of an opportunity to dig into those things into the documentary, but yeah, it's been a really interesting process getting to know where the Black church stands right now.
That's right. All right, we've got some more thank you gifts we want you to know about in this program. So remember, the number to call is 888-769-5000, and here are those thank you gifts that you can receive when you give us that call and your pledge of support.
For $180 or a monthly sustaining donation of $15, you will receive the Clementine Hunter Baptism on Cane River platter. For $150 or a monthly sustaining donation of $12.50, receive Louisiana's Black Church Combo. That includes Louisiana's Black Church Program DVD, Mahalia Jackson and the Black Gospel Field Book by Mark Burford, Time is Closer Than You Think CD by the legendary Lighthouse Gospel Singers, plus LPB Passport, your on-demand library of the best of PBS and LPB. For $120 or a sustaining monthly donation of $10, receive the Mahalia Jackson and the Black Gospel Field Book by Mark Burford. And for $72 or a sustaining monthly donation of just $6, receive the program DVD of Louisiana's Black Church and LPB Passport, your on-demand library of the best of PBS and LPB. Just call or text GIVE to 888-769-5000 or go to lpb.org and become a friend of LPB today. Or choose not to receive a gift to let 100% of your donation go to support LPB.
Okay, so there's some great gifts that you can get if you call right now at 888-769-5000 or text that number and the word GIVE. Now, in addition to those gifts, for $300 or more on a credit card, you can get this. This is the Clementine Hunter Baptism at Cane River rectangular plaque. It can be yours along with everything else. I also wanted to mention, once again, the member challenge. That's Ruby and Ori Marino. They're proud to support the programs here at LPB. They're challenging all viewers to donate right now during this pledge drive, and they're going to double that. We're going to go up to the first $1,200. It's going to double what you are giving us right now so we can create some more great programming here on Louisiana Public Broadcasting for you, the Louisianians of this state. Also, I want to thank our local underwriters. That's State Farm, Exxon Mobil, Baton Rouge, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana, and CSRS. Now, one of the other things that we do here at LPB is we do some great raffles. There's an exciting raffle every season. We have one going on right now. Let's take a look.
LPB wants to help you enjoy your outdoor space to the fullest. All you have to do is enter to win LPB's Ultimate Patio Raffle. One lucky winner will receive an amazing outdoor makeover, perfect for entertaining. Whether it's a barbecue island and smoker, a cozy fire pit, comfy furniture, and a big screen TV to watch the game, you will be well on your way to designing the patio of your dreams with the $25,000 grand prize gift card from the Barbecue Guys. Tickets are $45. Buy two and get a third ticket free. Start dreaming up your design and go to lpb.org for more information.
Amazing patio raffle. Don't miss your chance to be a part of that. Kara, this has been awesome, and I wish we had time to talk longer, and I really kind of feel like this is the beginning of a part 2, perhaps, that we can do this again. But what's one thing, real quickly, that you learned that you didn't know about the Black church going into this production?
Oh, one thing. All right, so I didn't really know the scope of the West African influence on Catholicism, and I think that that's really something interesting that you find out in this documentary.
Ah, love it, love it. All right, so Kara, we want to thank you again for all that you do, and thank you everyone for joining us. 888-769-5000 is the number to call. We appreciate you being here with us.
It's been more than 60 years since the Civil Rights Movement, but Black churches in Louisiana are still having to overcome hate.
Acadiana's local news leader.
The State Fire Marshal's office is investigating a fire that destroyed a church early this morning.
Breaking now, firefighters are on the scene of another church fire in Opelousas. Fire District 3 is fighting the blaze at Mount Pleasant Church.
Greater Union Baptist Church is in complete devastation after seeing that this is what's left of their church.
I'm Cheryl Laws Richard from Opelousas, Louisiana, and I've lived here for 59 years. Right now we are riding out to my church, Greater Union Baptist Church.
In 2019, Cheryl Law Richard's church was second in a string of church arsons in St. Landry Parish. The first was St. Mary Missionary Baptist in Port Barry. 10 days later, Cheryl's church, Greater Union Baptist, went up in smoke. 2 days later, Mount Pleasant Baptist was hit.
We had weddings, we had funerals, and we just got to get it back. I mean, all our thought and all our memories in that church.
Collectively, that's more than 300 years of Black history in those ashes.
It's a whole flood of emotions that come out just coming out here, walking out here. The front part of the church was over this way. We entered the church from the highway, and you start imagining what was. You can still remember when you walked in the foyer of the church.
Holden Matthews, then 21 years old, was arrested for the arsons. He was heavy into black metal music and wanted to prove a point. On a hidden Facebook account, he wrote, "Can't stand these Baptists around here. Bunch of people trying to find happiness in a religion that was forced on their ancestors, just as it was on mine. I wish more Black people would look into ancient beliefs of pre-Christian Africa." He sang a lot about the church and his distaste for it on his YouTube channel. Burnings aren't new for Black churches. Fire has been a way to terrorize Black people since Jim Crow. Burning churches, burning crosses, it all means the same thing. But domestic terrorism like this isn't the only challenge Louisiana's Black churches face today. An even greater threat is the loss of interest.
But see, that's one of the wrestlings that we wrestle with when you sit down and think about the tension between this generation and the generation of the old.
The number of young congregants is starting to drop at Black churches across the nation. In 2019, Pew Research found that nearly 46% of Gen Z did not attend church at all, while millennials were even less likely to attend at 49%.
The football fields, the soccer fields, the dance, they have more young people than the church. And so the question is, have we, the church, been intentional about creating opportunities for our young people to be connected?
Today's generation often rejects the old way that Black churches worshiped. For some, the rejection of gay marriage is enough reason to cancel church altogether. Gender norms also seem to be a deal breaker.
I had one young man who was open and he acknowledged himself, I'm a queer Black guy. And this is something that is very difficult for me to see, that you're gonna talk about a God of love, but then you're gonna cast me out as a demon and not accept me for who I am. Who am I to tell this individual that you cannot be used by God? And again, we, the church, come with our own politics. And, again, I know what the Bible says, okay. But at the end of the day, he also says, grace abounds much. What does that mean for you?
Each church that was burned received a little over $1 million in order to help with the rebuilding project. So we're going to have an edifice of at least a 200 capacity. We're going to still have that fellowship hall.
The fields where the church buildings once stood are now empty, but the spirit of the congregations that once gathered here is full. Like the generations of churchgoers before them that withstood trials, they believe they can create a new fire, a spiritual one.
Greater Union members, although we seem as though we're scattered, stay strong, continue in the faith, continue to believe that we will gather again because we are stronger together.
That's why I believe the Black church is always going to be relevant, it's always going to be vital, and it's always going to be vibrant because it has that spirit that a lot of other churches have not been able to understand and or explain.
It's a spirit that'll only be passed down if the stories of Louisiana's Black churches continue to be told.
I think the key thing, at least for me, is the maintaining of the Black church's history, understanding why it's still needed. Not because we want to be Black, not because we want to exclude other people. Somebody has to speak truth to power.
You can do it if you stay together. Together we'll stand, divided we'll fall. And when you got people that gonna stay together no matter what, then you can do something. Oh yeah. Yep. You really can.
Funding for the Stories of Louisiana's Black Church is provided by.
When morning came to Louisiana, we were hopeful, not hibernating. We were stronger, ready for what's next. And together, as we build anew, Blue Cross stands ready to support you.
Hi, I'm Patrick, employee at ExxonMobil and pastor of Believers Assembly of Baton Rouge. I'm so glad ExxonMobil is sponsoring the Louisiana Black Church on LPB, and I hope you enjoy watching it.
With CSRS, building stronger, smarter communities together. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and viewers like you. Thank you.